Okay, welcome everybody. What a delight it is to be here. I'm Cammie Dennis. This is Jessica Pinkowski, and together we head up the fitness team at On Top of the World Communities in Ocala, Florida. We're a very large retirement community. We have about 10,000 residents. And so just a little bit about our Move to Improve program. We launched it a little over a year ago, and one of the reasons we're so excited to be here is because of the successes that we've seen come out of this program in just that short time. Jessica and I spent quite a long time studying exercise specific to helping manage the challenges of Parkinson's disease, and we studied a lot of the different exercise programs that are out there today. I didn't get a lesson in this. I'm assuming that I just pushed the button. The round button in the middle? Oh, to the right. I might need somebody to come up here. I've tried everything. I'm sorry. Okay, sorry. Thank you, Amanda. While Amanda's teaching me how to do this, we have some take-home exercise brochures back there at the Mind in Motion table. There are 10 simple exercises that you can do at home to help improve strength and reduce the risk of falling. So please feel free to stop by and see us.
On the round thing, there's a little button here on the side.
Oh,
just as a
thank you. Yay! Okay, so the objective of my speaking to you today, oh, and by the way, let me tell you that I'm going to speak to you for about 30 minutes, and then we've got about 10 minutes of seated exercises for you to participate in, okay? So it'll be a little fun to wrap this up. I want everybody to understand the importance of the role of exercise in helping to manage and combat the challenges associated with Parkinson's, both physically and cognitively, and to appreciate the neuroprotective benefits of exercise. So whatever is good for the body is also good for the brain. And we're going to explore a few of the contemporary exercise programs that are out there. 2 of them you've already seen. So I want to ask you guys, what do you think is the difference between exercise and activity? What do you think is the difference between exercise and activity? Go ahead. Okay, so her answer was that activity is a little more sedentary. Anybody else have an answer? The difference between exercise and activity? Okay, so the answer was if you participate in exercise, it helps you to do the activities that you want to do in life. I love that answer. That's great. So exercise is really a specific prescription of movement, and activity is any type of movement that uses energy in the body. And that's exactly right. If we want to be able to stay engaged in life, continue to do those things that we want to do, that prescription of exercise will help. So that was a fantastic answer, yes. So we define exercise by a FIT principle, F-I-T-T, which stands for the frequency, the intensity, and the time and the type. Basically, what exercise are we going to do? How long are we going to do it for? How hard should it be? And how often do we have to do it? And you will see up there the prescription that comes from the Parkinson's Association. So a lot of the research here I've gotten from the Parkinson's Association, and you need about 30 minutes of moderate to vigorous activity 5 days a week. All right? And so our activity is less structured, which this woman was kind of alluding to, right? It's a little more sedentary. It's less structured, but it's still vitally important to keep our bodies moving. So we need both. We need both. One supports the other. The exercise is where we get those gains in strength and flexibility and functional capacity, and then we use those to do the things that we love. So one definitely supports the other. So there is a decline process associated with aging. So let's just push Parkinson's to the side for a minute, if you will, because every single one of us in this room shares something in common, and that is this vessel that we live in is aging from the day that we're born. And there are decline processes that go along with that. So then when you layer the challenges of Parkinson's disease on top of that, it becomes a cascading effect, very much related to our posture, our ability to function, our motor skills, all of those become impaired. So there is a term called sarcopenia, and it's very science-based. There's no getting around the fact that we are going to have a decline in our muscle as we age. We can combat that by staying active. So it's really critical that our exercise and our activity help to support and maintain that lean muscle mass. That becomes very, very critical in maintaining good posture, therefore affecting our ability to function and move well. So those are some of the Parkinson's-related challenges. We have bradykinesia, which is a slowness of movement, stiffness, very specifically related to the trunk, and then postural instability, which leads to balance challenges and fall risks. So let's look at something for a second. This is an aging curve. And if you can see that gold bar that runs through the middle of the graph, that is your ability to function. We call it a threshold, that threshold of functional capacity. So once you start dipping below that metal bar is where you might start to need some assistance for activities of daily living. So the whole idea here is to stay active and stay strong and bend your aging curve upward. So I think we would all agree that we're born, we're developing from the time we're about 18 or 20 very rapidly. Our skeletons are growing, our brain is developing, and then we sort of hit a maturity peak and we level out there. Well, believe it or not, if you are sedentary, you will start that aging decline process very early, in about your early 30s. So we literally have the ability to bend our aging curve up by the amount of activity and exercise that we get. The stronger we are, the longer we will stay functional, capable, and independent. So it just becomes even more complicated when we layer on the challenges of Parkinson's on top of that aging curve. This is a great, very compelling slide. What you're looking at is the cross-section of the thigh, okay? That big muscle above the knee. And that white spot in the middle is the femur bone. So you see that slide of the 24-year-old male athlete. Do you see how muscular his leg is? And you see the thin layer of fat around the muscle. In the middle is a 66-year-old male who walks about 3,400 steps a day. Do you see how much more fat is around that muscle? And not only around the muscle, but invading the muscle. Well, the good news is the last picture up there is also a 66-year-old male that walks about 12,000 steps a day. So you do literally have to walk the walk to maintain that lean mass, that muscle mass, and that healthy bone density. So it is never, ever too late to start exercising and gain the benefits. It's never too late to gain muscle. So that's very exciting. The benefits of exercise specific to Parkinson's disease, these are tried and true trials through research. So we know that regular exercise can positively influence walking speed and stride length. Interestingly enough, your gait speed is a very significant indicator of your health. There are some big pushes out there in the medical community to get gait speed listed as a vital sign. So when you go to the doctor, instead of just getting on the scale and having your blood pressure monitored, your cholesterol checked, there'll be a 50-foot walking path for you, and somebody will be there with a stopwatch and say, go, and time you to see how quickly you can walk 50 feet. Because it does stand to reason if you can walk quickly, you have a significant amount of strength, right? So walking speed is a very good indicator of health. Flexibility, which is really critical to your ability to move through a big range of motion. So that's going to have a significant influence on your functional capacity. Agility. How quickly can you get up, sit down, turn around, and move? I always joke when we're training our new instructors, and I say, do you think that older adults have the need to be agile and train for agility? And they kind of laugh and say no. And I say, absolutely. We have to train for agility our whole life. Navigating an airport or a grocery store, all of those things require agility. Stopping, starting, turning, all of those things. And fall risk reduction. So those have all been proven through research to have had significant gains through exercise. And so isn't it brave of me, is Dr. Oken still here? Wow. Isn't it brave of me to have these slides with Dr. Oken in the room? Because I will tell you right now, I am not a neuroscientist. I am an exercise scientist. But when I hear neurologists and neuroscience people telling us that exercise is one of the best things you can do for brain health, that gets me excited because I know about exercise. Okay? So neuroplasticity is basically the ability for your brain to adapt and change. That's fairly recent science. It wasn't that long ago that we thought the brain was fairly plastic and you couldn't change it or grow brain cells. We now know that we can do that within the span of our life, which is tremendously exciting. And then BDNF is a very long term. It's brain-derived neurotropic factor, which is a hormone that is generated within a lot of aerobic activity. So high amounts of aerobic activity drive this response in the brain to create BDNF, which Dr. John Rady, who I've admired and studied for years, equates it to miracle grow for the brain. So it actually helps to grow brain cells. Dr. Rady wrote a great book called Spark. And before I worked with older adults in the active aging world, I worked with children for 15 years very intensively. And Dr. Rady pointed out that there's a very significant relationship between movement and learning. And so I studied something for years called action-based learning. And we realized if we could get kids up and moving and then teach them something right away after that, it's stuck in their brains longer. Or we teach them something while they're moving. And so we find that to be true with Parkinson's as well. If we can heighten the exercise response and then bring in something that we want to learn, we can help with cognitive function through physical exercise. So here's some picture. This is a picture of neurons in the brain, and neurons have these long finger-like protrusions, branch-like protrusions, I should say, called dendrites. And the dendrites are what help connect those help for the cells to talk to each other. That's where the connections between the cells happen at the end of these dendrites. And so the BDNF, the brain-derived neurotropic factor that helps grow those dendrites in the presence of exercise, actually helps brain cells proliferate. And doesn't it stand to reason that if my brain cells have more opportunity for connections, I can help facilitate those new neural pathways? So exercise very connected to protective benefits for strength, physical strength, and also for the brain. And this, again, is speaking to that aerobic exercise really primes the brain for learning, but also relearning. So when we're born, we never give it a thought how we really learned how to walk. We just inherently, instinctively knew how to do that. But now we may have to relearn some of those motor functions to be able to move with better acuity, reduce our risk of falling, and frankly, to be able to stay engaged in all those things that we love to do. So relearning as an adult is part of that motor process. So what is the best exercise for Parkinson's disease? Does anybody have any thoughts on that? What the best exercise might be? Variety. That's a good answer. Anybody else? Say that a little louder. That's a good one. So for so many years, I've been in the fitness industry for over 30 years, and a lot of times I get asked, what's the best exercise to lose weight? And I always say, which is the answer from the back of the room from Rena, is the exercise you're going to do is the best one. And really, that is so critically important, is to connect to something that you enjoy. So all exercises are good, and there are many approaches with different types of exercise. So as I spent some time putting this educational project together to help our own Parkinson's community, I thought, wouldn't it be a good idea to highlight some of those contemporary programs that are out there? Because everybody will ask me, have you heard about this exercise program that they see on Dr. Oz or they read about on WebMD or something? So here are some of the contemporary programs that are out there. This one is especially near and dear to our heart, Parkinson's Network. And I know that Paul Watford is in the audience today. And this is one of the groups that we studied with when we were learning about Parkinson's exercise. And they have wonderful classes that we've participated in right here at the Senior Center in Gainesville. And so they have a very wide approach in that they will do exercise in the chair, they will do exercises standing, and they do a lot of motor functional movements where you're walking around the room, you are hopping or skipping and moving through obstacle courses. So it's extremely progressive, but it really accommodates all different fitness levels. So that's a wonderful program, and you have access to that right here in Gainesville. Pedaling for Parkinson's has gotten quite a lot of attention. That's a program you can find at a lot of YMCAs. And that, again, works off of the premise that you're priming the brain with high amounts of aerobic activity. So they get you to pedal at a high intensity level. Again, helping with both the body aerobic activity for cardiorespiratory health and also helping to prime the brain. Rocksteady Boxing, and we had, I wrote down their name, I wanted to get it right. We just had that great demonstration from Champions Boxing, and it's really the same premise. There's a lot of power and strength in boxing, so that's really good for helping to train that muscle to fire quickly. When your muscle can fire quickly, it really helps you to reduce your risk of falling, because anytime you encounter something that is a change in the environment, they might throw your center of gravity off, you need your muscles to quickly respond to that to help keep you upright and prevent you from falling down. So those are some of the great things that come out of boxing programs: empowerment and power, both emotionally and physically. Dance for Life, so thrilled that they're here again this year. They were here last year, and we partook in some of their classes here in Gainesville at the Senior Center as well when we were endeavoring to learn about exercise specific to Parkinson's. And you will see an element of that in the 10 minutes of movement that Jessica is going to lead. So we've learned a lot from Dance for Life. Very therapeutic. It's very, it's so easy to connect to emotionally, which I think is so important. LSVT, big and loud. One of the things that we've come to learn about Parkinson's is with bradykinesia and everything gets slower and smaller, we have to kind of reset that. And we have to amplify everything, our voice, our movement, so we can kind of reset our normal, bringing our voice and our strides back to what is more the normal range. So this is a program that you can seek out through physical therapy. These are physical therapists that provide that. And lastly is our program, and it's called Move to Improve. And Move to Improve is available at our community on top of the world. It's also available in a public health club in Ocala, Florida, called the Ranch Fitness Center and Spa. And we also provide it to Mind and Motion for Parkinson's, which is a monthly support, education, and exercise program. Mind in Motion is a nonprofit. It's free and open to the public. So there's a variety of places that you can find our Move to Improve exercise class. And we feel that there are a few things that are really key to a good exercise approach to helping manage Parkinson's symptoms and challenges. And the first thing is, obviously, we want to maintain strength, cardiovascular health, and flexibility. So those are sort of the three cornerstones to any exercise program. And then on top of that, we put in a lot of balance training. So we want our folks to feel empowered to overcome a fear of falling, because when you're fearful of falling, you tend to restrict your activities. As soon as you restrict your activities and move less, you become at a heightened risk for falling, because it really stands to reason. The less active you are, the more muscle you lose. The more muscle you lose, the greater at risk you are for falling. So there's this terrible kind of downward spiral that comes out of a fear of falling. So we want our folks to feel very, very confident and empowered that they can overcome that fear and get stronger. And so we do a lot of training for center of gravity, weight shifting, all of that stuff to help you function better outside the classroom. We also include a lot of functional training, so a lot of gait training, a lot of movement in what we call multiple planes of movement. So typical exercise patterns happen in one plane. Imagine I'm holding a set of dumbbells and I'm doing a bicep curl, and it makes my bicep muscle stronger. Yes, it will. But how many times in life do we go around like this and pick things up symmetrically in both hands? We don't. We move like this. Right? So we move in multiple planes of motion. So that's how we create our exercise patterns. We move as we rotate, bend down, stand up, and so we help retrain that motor process in the body. The other thing that we bring in is multitasking. So we play lots of fun games. As we're moving, we ask you to do thinking. So we might do counting backwards. We might have you recite the months forward and backwards. We do all kinds of critical thinking games as we're moving to be able to bring the brain into that process, that resetting of all of those, building those neural pathways. And the last thing that we bring in is vocal volume. So we help people to kind of reset that normal, bring that small voice to a nice, big, bold, loud voice. And so we do a lot of vocal exercises in our program. So those are the key components that we found in studying all of those others, and that's what we bring to Move to Improve. So if you have any questions, I would be delighted to entertain those. I'll be over at the Mind in Motion for Parkinson's table after this. And without further ado, Jess, I'm going to have you're going to bring your chair up here. Up here? Well, I'll have Jess bring her chair up here. And if you guys would like to turn your chairs, if you're facing the table, maybe you want to turn your chair to face front. We're going to ask you to participate. All of the exercises will be in the chair today.